What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon, round 2 of the Autumn Nations just around the corner now. More teams getting announced. So we're going to do another preview video. This one is for England versus Australia, a rivalry that is always a lot of fun in the world of rugby. We're going to be taking a look at the teams that have been announced, go through some good picks, some bad picks, some thoughts on how this game might go, and finishing off with a score prediction. Already done one of these for Ireland versus New Zealand, so go check that one out after this one if you haven't already. And we'll jump straight in with the home team, England. England last week played New Zealand, came away with a loss, and watching that game live, I think about 50 minutes into that game, I was like, I think England have got this. I think they're going to be able to push this one through. No, no, they are not. Seen a lot of different talking points around that game. A lot of fingers being pointed at George Ford. Obviously, not a great tackle on Mark Talea, then missing the penalty, then missing a drop goal. You single-handedly a 13-point swing in that game, so it's very easy to point the finger at him. I said in the preview video, minutes in international rugby matter. He's only just come back in the team. Was he the right pick? I might have looked for maybe like Finn Smith to have come in there and done something coming on from the bench. But there was bigger problems, I think, in that game for England. Taking Marcus Smith off, felt like something going wrong. But Marcus Smith also missed 2 drop goals. They lost by 2. If either of them had gone over, they still win. But I think there's a bigger thing that goes on in world rugby when teams take on New Zealand, which for me is so many teams seem to get in the lead and then stop attacking, and I've never understood it. A lot goes against probably even like the Southern Hemisphere teams in general. The Northern Hemisphere teams are really bad if they get in the lead versus these teams. They stop attacking. And England did it again. They got in the lead and then just sort of sat back and backed their own defence. I don't understand it. Keep attacking. Put more scores on and keep putting under pressure. New Zealand are a team who just don't stop coming for the entire 80 minutes. And eventually they got a score, and then suddenly you've got to chase the game. You've got to get that last minute penalty over. It's just a weird thing where I honestly think over the course of the game, proportionally, I would say I think England probably had the better game in that one. But you've got to be able to seal it out. You've got to be able to keep putting pressure on, even just because you're in the lead. You can't take your foot off the gas. And going into this week, I think there's a lot of talking points around how some of these guys are going to be performing. Going into the team that's been named, not a lot of changes to talk about in terms of the team. Ford is still on the bench. Again, I think a game like Australia could be a good one. To see Finn Smith come on there and maybe play the game rather than George Ford, but they sort of got to back him now after last week's game and have a lot of fingers pointed. The coaches tended to sort of back those players then the next week and say, no, he's the right choice to get in there, hoping he's going to have a great second half in this one. And then validate, actually, it was just about 15 minutes from last week. Starting out in the front row, Gens, George and Stewart once again taking over that front row, which actually looked very good in that first half. Certainly felt like a drop-off for me in the second half. When those lads went off, that scrum became much less confident. So for me, there's certainly a starting, team and then a reserves team. So I think this is the right way to go. That'll be an area to keep their eyes on, because Australia do have some big players in the scrum. Australia had issues as well in the Rugby Championship for taking their front row off too early and then getting punished for the exact same thing. So first half could be a big battle. Second half, its own separate battle at the scrum time for me. Rest of the forwards alongside them, Itoje and Martin making up that lock department again. Cunningham South, Tom Curry and Ben Earl back in that back row. Cunningham South, boy, playing well last week. He is certainly beginning to put himself in that England shirt more and more. I thought he had another good performance last week. Ben Earl felt quiet, not going to lie. I was expecting a little bit more, especially that scrum that they had right at the end. They're on the New Zealand 5-metre line. Man, I was expecting Ben Earl to pick up that ball off the back of the scrum and go on the charge. Didn't work out. I know they'd had a couple of changes and stuff come on. I think Dombrandt might have actually been on at that point, and I think he was in at 8. I can't remember if Ben Earl came off, but I think Ben Earl moved to the flanker position at that point, and I'd have just run him up the middle, just made them pay for that one. And again, this vice captaincy thing again. I don't know what it is. The 3 vice captains, maybe too many names, calling too many options at those sorts of times. I think points like that I thought that was a game winner, that scrum anyway. Halfback partnership, Spencer going back in alongside Smith. Spencer not doing a great deal for me last week. I wasn't that blown away by him. They do have a couple of other options. Randall came on, I've seen a couple of people talk about a bad pass from Randall to be able to go for that drop goal as well, and I was like, catch the ball, drop goal. I still feel like you should be able to get away with it. Not the greatest pass, but I think maybe still the right choice to go with Spencer, but it was a little bit quiet for me as well. Marcus Smith, though, I thought had a very good game. I thought that's a much better performance. He got that interception run as well. Got off to Faye so I thought they had a better game overall. Centre partnership, Slade and Lawrence going back in alongside each other. Slade, again, quiet for me. I don't really recall too much going on from Slade. Ollie Lawrence was a tackling machine. I think he had certain... Was this something outrageous, like 22 tackles? I can't remember. I saw a stat pop up earlier on. It was something ridiculous that an outside centre shouldn't be on the go. It was something just bizarre. And then that back three: Freeman, Faye-Boso, and Furbank once again in that 15 shirt. Faye-Boso's making that back three for me. Furbank again was another one that not particularly. There's a couple of these names here where you feel like actually I should be talking quite positive about them. And looking back at that game, they're not really jumping out to me. They've gone with the same team as last week. You've got to hope that consistency is going to kick in this week. I think again Faye-Boso was the standout for me in that back three once again. Replacements then: Cowan Dickey coming in alongside of Baxter and Cole. Ezekwe and Dombrandt to come on in that second half as the replacement forwards. Randall, Ford, and Slateholm coming on as your replacement back. So 5-3 this week. Of course, last week they had Ben Curry was the only one missing out on this week. Again, Ezekwe coming in to make a massive difference. I can't think of too much he saw coming on from the bench. Dombrandt, another one. This is maybe something that I feel like is actually missing in this England team at the minute is a bench that can come on and seal out a game. I was sort of looking at some of these names. I was looking forward to see a bit more from Finn Baxter, Ezekwe and Dombrandt. For all the big hype Dombrandt had around him getting into that England shirt, he has really kind of been a bit more subpar for me in an England jersey. Coming on that second half, are these guys on the bench sealing out these big games for England? Maybe not. George Ford, had a couple of things go wrong for him as well, which is just a shame you could end up having the finger pointed at you, which is fair enough. That bench is still maybe not going to be the impact I'm hoping for. I'd be looking to see just how that consistency goes out. I'm hoping from an England standpoint, just being able to link up a couple more things together going into this one, but also not stopping. Play the match in front of you and keep being on the aggression. I think this blitz defense that they've been doing so much works really well. It's so good at catching teams off guard and pushing them back. But you've got to be able to punish them for it. Fatigue will kick in. It's a hard ask fitness-wise to get lads to constantly run off the defensive line at speed. And if you end up missing a tackle or not quite getting there, they're going to charge you back up the pitch. You've got to be on top of your game. It's a hard fitness ask. So as the game gets on, you will begin to drop off. You need the bench to come on and relieve that fatigue pressure. But also just as a team generally to play the game that's in front of you and keep being the aggressive team, because when you're running that heavy fitness level defense, you can't keep kicking the ball back to them. The lads are just going to get knackered. So going into this one, Australia are a team that can punish you on some of those counterattacks as well. I'm looking forward to see how it goes. I'm still slightly favouring this England team going into this one. But we'll talk about the Australian team because, man, they... a rugby championship that was all over the place. Genuinely found it hard to call what was going to go on this Australian team. Double loss to South Africa at the start. Beat Argentina by a point in their first game. I didn't see that one coming. Then lost by 40 the following week. If you remember that one, that was the one where Australia were I don't remember what it was, 24 points in the lead at halftime or something insane. And then Argentina just started taking names and chopping people down. It was outrageous. And then a back-to-back loss versus New Zealand to finish off their rugby championship. They are a team at the minute for me that is putting in a good 40. And it's the second 40 that's really letting them down. They're going to be looking for a bit more, consistency as well going in there. So starting on that front row, Angus Belfaster and Talielo Tupou coming in. Solid front row. This front row works, and we saw this in the Rugby Championship. I'm going to jump ahead to the bench once again. James Slipper and Alan Alatoa. We saw this in the Rugby Championship. These boys come on, and the front row went wrong. It just started collapsing. James Slipper, penalties left, right, and centre around the park and in the scrum, things go wrong. Keep those boys on for as long as possible. I would say 55 minutes or so. Really try and keep them on the pitch for as long as I think it really drops off for me at the minute with this Australian team. As soon as you lose that starting front row. Lock department, Frost going alongside Williams this week. Lineouts will be a fun one because of all the areas that, I think didn't work for Australia over the Championship. People like Frost and Williams getting in there as well. are people that will actually disrupt a line out. England can have a really solid line out, and taking that away from them is a big, big blow. You know, they're running this really hard defensive setup. So if they can just get into a maul and just sort of do a couple of drives, you know, a couple of other players getting a breather, it really works. And if you can take that ball off them at the line out and go on your counter-attack, you're certainly making those English players work so much harder. Going to be a big, big competition area. And then in that back row, Valentini going in at 6, McWright at 7, and Wilson going in at 8 once again. I said this about the Rugby Championship. I do prefer Valentini when he plays at 8. I prefer him being able to do some of those hard-running carries. At 6, I think his games end up being a bit more 50-50. Harry Wilson going in at 8. He had a couple of good games and a couple of games where I was a bit umming and ahhing. Fraser McWright coming back into the side, I think, was a big bolster. And he, you know, is good for a try in a game, basically, at this point. He will get over that whitewash and he will break through the line. He's a very, very fast player for flank as well. But also, support is getting better. When he first started in the Australian team, I did think he was a bit greedy, taking the ball himself and running off and not looking for the offload. He is a bit more now. When he breaks that line, he is actually keeping his eyes up and looking around and looking for who's with him to give an offload. And I think that's really important when you have a player like that. So I think that's maybe working a bit better for them. Halfback partnership, Gordon going back in alongside Noah Lolosio. Again, Jake Gordon, I think, is the right call at 9. I've really enjoyed Jake Gordon's play. I think he's very good in terms of the box kicks. The clearances are pretty on point normally. Noah Lolosio is still someone I haven't landed for me in that 10 shirt. I would maybe like to look at who else could go in at a starting 10. He does occasionally have a game where you go, actually, this is why Lolosio was in the team, but I would say that's maybe 30% of the time for me. Centre partnership, mixing it up this week, which is fun. Lenny Kitao going in alongside a name that I genuinely don't know. We're going to have a stab at his name is Joseph Sua Ali. I'm going to hopefully get that sort of bang on. Coming over from the NLRs, going into the Rugby Union now, not someone I know, some of you guys might know a lot more about him. We're coming into that 13 shirt. Players that have come over from Rugby League and stuff, sometimes they work out actually okay, sometimes they really don't. So this one's going to be 50-50, but I like seeing new names when it gets around to the international scene because it's something for me to really keep an eye out for in a game. But being able to play off the shoulder of someone like Lenny Kitao, who actually had quite a good Rugby Championship, I'm looking forward to see how that will mix up. Ollie Lawrence, like I said, for the England team was defensively really, really solid last week. So looking forward to see how playing off the shoulder of someone like Lenny Kitao, who also likes a little sniping run himself, that might be quite a dangerous centre combo to work with. Back 3, Dylan Peach comes in alongside of Callaway and Tom Wright. Man, the back 3 for Australia were another area that just did not impress me in that Rugby Championship at all. Tom Wright had a couple of good runs and is good for a really, really big counter, and if you kick the ball to him. Callaway was quiet. Corey Betty, quiet. You know, Dylan Peach was coming on in a couple of games. I don't think he necessarily had enough game time to get a great feel for him. Max Jorgensen was another one. It's not quite landed for me. I think they're still testing, you know, under new coaching staff. I would just like to see them have the ball a bit more and play a bit more expansively. They did like to keep it very stuck within the forwards in the Rugby Championship, and playing further out wide and getting some of these lads involved, I think is going to be very, very useful, especially against an England team who's running this blitz defense thing. Getting it out wide quickly is massive pressure on that England defense. You know, New Zealand last week were getting the ball out to Mark Telaire as fast as they could on that wing just to try and play around it, and I think it does work. So that'll be, you know, what I want to be seeing from Australia. If they stick it within the forwards, I think England are in with a great shot of being able to chop them down. And then in terms of these replacements, Pengo Mosa, Slipper, and Alatoa once again going in alongside of Salakai Aloto and Langan Gleeson. Salakai Aloto is another guy who was playing very well in the Rugby Championship. Take with Dermot Donaldson and Jorgensen coming on as their replacement back. So 5-3 apiece on either side. How do we see this game going? For me, I think England, you know, were coming off the back of last week. I don't think they'll be very happy with that performance overall. I think they had little 10-minute bursts here and there where England actually looked very in control. I think they'll be annoyed to have lost that game and seeing some of the responses there. I think they'll be looking for a big performance in this one. Australia haven't been consistent. That second half especially, something that is really letting them down. I think if England can keep on the pressure for the full 80 rather than doing this thing where they get in the lead and then sort of reserving themselves to just backing their own defence, I think just keep attacking and keep putting a good score on. I can see England actually getting a decent score in this one. Battle area scrum I'm looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to keeping an eye out. First half scrum and second half scrum is going to be two totally different battles, and I look forward to see how those are going going to match up because the England bench players that are coming on, a lot less caps on their side versus the Australian bench. But I'm not necessarily rating that Australian bench very highly in terms of that front row performance either. Will Australia play expansively? Will they play out wide, or will that English defence swarm off the line and just really begin to muller them? We saw it with Argentina, that Australia, once they start getting on the back foot, it just started crumbling and they started going away. I feel like the England swarm is going to be the way to go for this one. So score prediction wise, I'm going to go for an England win in this one, and I actually kind of feel relatively comfortably. Actually, I feel like they might put a bit of a stamp down on this game. I'm going to go for an England by, let's do 11. Let's not do a round number. Let's go do 10. But let's do England by 11. That'll be my score prediction for this one. Make sure you drop down in the comments your thoughts on the teams and also your own score predictions for the games. Of course, we've got Ireland, New Zealand tomorrow, if you're watching this on the day the video came out. So make sure you're locking in all your Superbru and your fantasy stuff tomorrow, rather than when you get round to it to Saturday as we normally do this week, because Friday games always fun to get us kicked off and underway. Of course, guys, we'll be trying to do a couple more of these maybe tomorrow. I think we got the Scotland, South Africa team still waiting to come out. Wales, Fiji. Oh boy, who knows? Who knows? So make sure you hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with all the latest videos as they come out. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.